Hey guys, and welcome to game number 21 out of 100 of the Mack vs. Machine series, where I'll be playing 100 games of Scrabble against the top Scrabble bot, HastyBot. Now, for all of you who have not checked out game 20, I highly recommend going back and looking at that. It was quite an eventful game. I won't spoil the result, but definitely go ahead and check that out since it was quite exciting to watch. But meanwhile, hopefully we'll get another exciting matchup here in game 21. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. HastyBot is first and opens with Wintle for 26. I've got an okay rack here. The G-I-I combo, especially with the Y, is not great. So I'd love to get rid of some of these tiles. I'm looking at maybe Mingy here through this N. It's not bad. It scores 25. AIT is reasonable. Definitely don't want to play something like Agility. It gets rid of a lot of tiles, but it only scores 11 points. So I definitely prefer something like Mingy just to score more. Yagi here is another option, which isn't terrible. It scores 21 though, which is a bit of a point sacrifice, and it does give back a bit. If he drew the Z, that could really hurt. And then an F2 or other big plays here. So I think Mingy is probably the best option. Okay, he plays Kenneld for not that big a score, considering it's a bingo. It's 59. And unfortunately, Zonation does not quite fit through these ends, which is a shame. That would have been nice. So I don't think we have a bingo here. Probably with Zoo is fine. It's 34, keeps INT. That's not too bad. Could also just play Zoo here for 28. I don't think it makes sense, though, to keep an A for 6 less points. I mean, the A is nice just for some extra balance, and Anti is always a good potential prefix for bingo, so it's nice to keep together. But especially on a board where the S and D hooks are important to draw, I'd prefer to play an extra tile. I guess there's also Zooty now, come to think of it. That's 37. That's one more point. So AIN versus INT. INT is a little bit better, especially since we may be looking to bingo through this E. That works a bit better. And just 2 consonants and a vowel early in the game for bingoing is usually a little bit better than 2 vowels and a consonant, especially when there's some vowels floating. So I think the 1 point doesn't really matter that much. So I think I'm going to go ahead and play this. Okay, so we have Out C by HastyBot, and I have Biatron as a 7 on my rack, which now plays above this E and Out C. I think that's all I have. Nothing through this O. Don't think there's any 8s through an E. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, he gets down to Ripoff for a pretty good score. And not the best draw here. UVW was one of the most dreaded 3-tile combos in all of Scrabble, so I'd love to get rid of those. I do have a nice play here of Purview through this E, which scores 30 points and keeps just a K, turns over a bunch more tiles for the S's and the blank. So this looks like it's going to be pretty hard to do better than. I can probably score a few more points by playing next to Biatron, but I really have to get rid of the UVW, and this looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and play this. Okay, he plays U, which is a pretty risky play. I don't have a great way, I don't think, to take advantage of this. I guess Merc is pretty good, though. That's still 42, and ESX is a great leave. So that's probably what I'll end up playing. We're down 30 or so it'll be a pretty even game after our play. Lots of goodies still unseen. 2 S's, the blank. The J would be actually a pretty good tile here because of this JO spot, which will score 40 pretty easily. There's also a good X spot here next turn for us, so I could play something like Exert right now, which does score 40, but I think I need to take this spot out. I mean, there's still 2 H's, 3 T's. There's a lot of ways he could hurt me here, and I can still play Merc for 42 and just play the X next turn. This seems like a much sounder approach than cashing in the X now and then allowing him to possibly use this spot for a big score. I just want to make sure I don't have anything I'm missing here for more with the X. I guess actually I also have Smirk now that I see that. So 54. 54 versus what, 42? Yeah, so Smirk is 12 more points. It's a close call. The S is pretty nice on this board with Biotrons, Purviews, Wintles. There's a bunch of places that we can use it. So I feel like probably it's better to play Merc. On the other hand, 12 points is substantial, and there are still 2 S's unseen for us to draw, so it's not like this is the case S, which could definitely be used as an argument to spend it and take the extra points. You could even make an argument for Kex here, I guess, just because EMRS is so strong, but I don't think it makes sense, just because, again, he can still score 40 plus very easily here, and if he goes there, I'm not really going to be able to bingo that easily, now that I've taken out the floaters and Biotron in the Biotron's lane. So I don't think that makes sense, but it's worth looking at. I think it's really between Merc and Smirk here. I hope I'm not missing something better, but I don't think so. Yeah, you'd have to be... Yeah, you'd have to play something like SEME here, which doesn't make sense to use the base spot. I feel like I'm leaning towards saving the S here with Merc. It just seems like a really useful tile with Biotrons and everything going forward. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and play Merc and save the S. Wow, okay, so he plays Bargello as a natural for 94 to an O. Definitely not what I was expecting. And I feel like I'm going to have to play Hex here. I mean, it scores 51. If I can pick up another Vowel, I've got a decent chance to bingo with Biotrons next turn. So now I'm definitely glad I saved the S, because I'm going to need it to bingo back and get myself back into this game. Yeah, I feel like Hex is pretty forced here. Well, he bingos again now with Chadars and Biotron. So this is not looking good at all. I'm down over 100. With that C and Chadars where it is, it's going to be really hard for me to bingo there. I might... See, given I don't care about spread, it might be time for me to try something like Goat. It's pretty crazy. I mean, in a tournament where spread mattered, I probably would not do this. But if I'm going to come back from down 113... I'm feeling like I'm going to need to either bingo twice or bingo for a massive amount. Like, I probably need to do that and draw something like Coquettes or something. I guess I could also just... I mean, Guaco would be like the normal play here. So let's see, that scores 27. That makes it, what, 283. I'm still going to be down 86. I guess I still have a chance here, right? If I'm down 86, if he draws garbage, like if he draws the Q and 6 vowels or something and he has to exchange, then I could bingo and tie it up. So maybe I should still just do this and hope I draw really well and he draws really badly. It might not be quite time to play something like Goat here. I guess with Goat, it is pretty hard for him to block, though, if he doesn't have the S or the blank. I mean, I guess he could play like Hid or something like that from the H. Maybe it's not that hard for him to block. Because I'm not worried about plays from the T, since of course I can still end with Goats. Yeah, this is kind of a close call. If I were down less, then I'd definitely play Guaco, and if I were down more, I probably do have to play Goat. I guess, what are the odds that he picked up the S or the blank? So there were 32 tiles that he would have been drawing, right? Since there's 25 unseen now, which means 32 unseen before his play. So roughly speaking, out of 32 tiles, he's looking at 2 target tiles. So 1 in 16 chance he hits it with each of his individual draws, so roughly 7 out of 16. That's not exact, since technically the odds of him drawing the S or the blank increase a little bit with each miss, since there's fewer tiles that would be not the S or the blank, so that's not an exact calculation, but it's reasonably close, and it's a fairly reliable way to do a quick calculation in the game where you don't have time to do it exactly. So he's got, I don't know, probably just under a 50% chance to have the S or the blank. So maybe it is better to play GOAT. I guess the problem is, like, I might not even bingo after GOAT. I just feel like after Guaco, I mean, unless he just truly drew garbage, I'm still going to even be the underdog if I bingo. Like I said, if spread mattered, I would definitely play Guaco here. It's just a lot more sound. But you know what? Let's have some fun. Since spread doesn't matter at all, I'm just going to go ahead. I mean, it could theoretically matter if we end up 50-50, but at this point, I'm already down a lot on spread, so I'm just going to go ahead and play GOAT. Okay, it didn't work. But let's face it, with a rack like that, that's so strong with evades and some other tile, there's no way that after Guaco I would have won this game anyway. He would have had more than enough flexibility to block what I opened, or he could have just played Dev right here actually under GOAT for 9, and that would have been more than enough for him to block that and hold on. So now I'm just going to start sort of getting reckless and play Cup here, because I have the S for Scup, and maybe I can draw something there. I don't know. At this point, it doesn't really matter, but I might as well try. And I just gave him a spot for his Q, so yeah, this is turning into a bit of a bloodbath here. All of a sudden. There's still a blank unseen, too. Where can I even bingo? I guess maybe with this RE and IS spot is my best bet. So I'd like to get rid of, I guess, just like GIO. Or GI. I have Toit here, which scores pretty well. I don't love keeping the G. It also doesn't really matter too much at this point, but if I can at least bingo to save face a little bit, I'd like to do that. Yeah, maybe just Toit to score a bit. I don't see a great way to play off GI or OI here. So why don't we try that? If we can draw the N especially, then we'll have a decent chance to bingo. Well, that did not work out the way it planned by any means. We've got now 5 vowels. LANT blank he has, so he probably will be going out. He's got Layden with a blank E here. Maybe he doesn't have any more outs. It's not that easy to play 5 tiles on this board. It's pretty exhausted. The question is it actually worth it for me to block him from going out? It may not be, because he still has scoring plays like Loda here. I might just be better off playing Ajis. Although if I can go out in 2 while blocking this, it's probably worth it. The problem is it's not that easy for me to block. I mean, I guess I could play Guy if I don't give him another out here with an A, which I don't think I do. But I don't think going out with AAIS, so this probably isn't worth it, because then he'll just go out in 2 himself. Yeah, I don't think I can go out in 2 while blocking this spot, as far as I can tell. Of course, Ajis does give him back Layden on top for a bigger score. Yeah, so maybe just Jag then, or Jig. Probably just Jig is fine. Yeah, I just don't think... It doesn't make sense for me to block this if I can't go out next turn, because then he'll just go out in 2 and score even more. So I'm pretty sure I'm best off just... Yeah, because I won't even have Jig. He's just going to play Loda or something there for a lot. Yeah, I'm just going to play Jig. I think that's better. Okay, so rough game for us there. Final score 509 to 320 in HastyBot's favor. it was going pretty well for us earlier, but then these two big natural bingos he hit of Bargello and Chadars sort of sealed the deal, and things got a little bit out of hand for us there. Just really didn't leave us any way to get back into the game. So I think after that it was going to be pretty tough, but I'm curious to see if early on I might have missed anything better. So let's go back and see. Winter looks pretty good for him. Yeah, I think Mingy is fine. I saw. I didn't actually look at this Yagi. I only looked at the other one, but this one has its own problems too, because this is a really dangerous spot if he drew the Z or the J, which isn't that remote a possibility given he just played off 6 tiles, and even things like funny or words with the 2 4-pointers are going to score 40 there. So Mingy looks a lot more solid. Kennel, only bingo for him. I guess that's not too shocking given he has a lot of triplicates and duplicates, but it's clearly the right play for him. Let's see. He likes Zudi. I think for some reason I thought Zudi scored only 1 more than Wazoo. I don't know why. I think I had Wazoo scoring 36 in my head for some reason. Oh, Zudi scores 3 more? Yeah, that's probably worth it then. For some reason, I know I said this in the game too, I was under the impression that Zudi only scored 1 more point. But yeah, for 3, that's probably worth it. I mean, AIN is slightly inferior to INT just because it's a little more Val heavy. And with this E Unseen, which is my best floater, I'd rather keep a more constant heavy leave. I'm also giving myself this O here. So there is something still to be said for Wazoo, but for 3 points, yeah, probably Zudi is a little bit better. Definitely not a big mistake by any means, but just a little sloppy on my part there for some reason, not doing the math correctly in my head. I saw both plays and considered both plays, but I just didn't evaluate them correctly. So a little careless, but just a minor mistake there, if anything. He plays out C, which is kind of aggressive. He has a little bit of a lead. Taos is also pretty aggressive. I guess his other options are just pretty bad. I mean, yeah, all his equity plays are here. And, I mean, OE, this is a pretty uninspiring play to make. I mean, you're scoring 9. EOSTU is sort of one of those leaves where it's like if you bingo, it's great. If you don't bingo, it really stinks. Because you're probably going to have like 4 or 5 vowels and all 1-pointers and be making plays like OE for several turns. So personally, I hate these kind of plays just because when they don't work out, you're really saddling yourself with a bad leave. It's a very high variance play. Like either it'll work out really well or really badly, and there's no in between. So unless you're down and you need to take that kind of chance, I prefer not to do that. That being said, I really don't love out C, of course, given what it gives back. And it is nice to save the S for this spot. Yeah, I just really don't like making plays like OE, and I don't think it's worth 10 points. I mean, you're not even really up that much, so it's probably not worth 10 points to play it over here. So I guess I'm okay with this, just given the lack of other options. I mean, I hate it, but I don't see... I wouldn't want to play OE here, so I probably would end up doing the same thing. Maybe Taos. It does keep an extra val, but the T is a little more comfortable to leave here just because you can't really put a power tile on this square very easily and get it multiplied by 6 with a double other and triple word. Whereas after out C, it'd be pretty easy for me to put a J there, or maybe even an X with Axone or something like that. So Taos is a little bit safer. Maybe I'd go with Taos instead of out C, but in any case, I think playing with the Wazoo's hook is probably reasonable here. Biotron only bingo for us. Ripoff is clearly the right play for him. Scores way too many points to really think about anything else. Purview looks good. I did see Vrao through this O, but of course it's 8 less points, and the PK doesn't really go that well together. So Purview is pretty clearly best. He plays U, which looks solid. AEGL is a good leave. I guess you could consider not playing it here, or maybe... Of course, if you play it here, then you're setting up an R and S hook you don't have either, which isn't particularly great. The nice thing about Yuga is you do at least have the O, so you actually have a tile that will go there next turn. Like, if I'm going to make a risky opening that I don't really want to make, I'd always at least rather make one where I have a tile that goes there. That way, if my opponent can't or doesn't use it in that somewhat unlikely event, I'll be able to capitalize next turn. So just given that, I do think I have a preference for Yuga. Also, getting rid of the G is always nice. I mean, AEGL is not terrible. It's well balanced, but it could definitely, the G could definitely turn into a Thorn. So I don't mind getting rid of it. Gluey, I guess it's also reasonable. AO I don't love though. So I think I'd probably go with Yuga here as opposed to you. But I don't hate you either. I mean, AEGL is a little bit more well balanced. Yeah, I think you is fine, but I still feel like I would go with Yuga just to keep a tile where I know I can use the spot next turn. Here, yeah, the bot wants me to play Smirk, which I'm not surprised since an S is usually worth about 8 or so on static, so I'm not surprised to see the play that scores 12 more and spending the S ranking higher. I just felt like on this board, the S is pretty important because of the Biotron's hook, potentially Purviews or Wintles too, the ES bingo line on column B. It just felt like a good board for the S, and I know there's 2 S's unseen, but it also just gives me a lot of flexibility for the future. You know, just I guess I'll probably be playing the X here next turn, but if I if I get a second S, that's not necessarily bad because I'll be able to make good plays with Purviews or Wintles and unload some of my tiles. So I just think this gives me more flexibility, and if I get rid of the S, depending on what he does, like he might often make plays above Biotron that maybe go to this square or this square even, and that'll set up an S hook, and I'll be really regretting having gotten rid of my S if I think he's setting one up. So even on boards that don't immediately have a ton of S potential, it's always important to think about how quickly they could have a lot of S potential, and this board does already have S potential, and it could have even more quickly. So I think spending the S is fine here. I think not spending the S is fine. It's close. Like if it were 8 points, I definitely would have kept the S. If it were 18 points, I definitely would have played the S. It's sort of like, I feel like if you asked 20 top Scrabble experts, you'd probably have a pretty even split of people saying they'd play the S and people saying they wouldn't. It's sort of just almost a stylistic preference. I don't think there's a clear way to say, oh, one is clearly better here. But yeah, I think in this case, my decision of not playing the S is perfectly reasonable. As it turns out, I was very happy to still have my S here, because now all of a sudden, the S is actually very pivotal for me, since I'm going to need this Biotron's lane to bingo back. I guess X is kind of interesting, just because if I can draw a vowel, I'll bingo. Although I don't think there's any 7s with an A. I'm pretty sure. So assuming there's no 7s with an A, which I'm pretty sure I'm not missing any, then this actually doesn't really make sense, because there's 7 A's left. That's a vast majority of my possible draws. So it does hit stuff with the I. It would hit the Titches, but I don't think that's nearly enough to justify it. It's also a 17-point sacrifice, and I need every point I can get at this score. So X is an interesting idea, but I think Hex has got to be the play. Of course, he bingos here. And yeah, this was sort of the turn where I agonized a little bit. Guaco, which I saw and almost played, is the standard play. And again, in a tournament where spread matters, this is the play I would have made. It just felt really bleak still. I mean, 27 points. That still leaves me down 86 plus his turn. So pretty much I'm going to need either 2 bingos, which is going to be next to impossible on this board, or for him to have just absolute garbage, like maybe 4 eyes or something, and he's going to have to like exchange, and then I'll need to hit a big bingo from this O. It just felt really unlikely to work. And I mean, Goat isn't exactly a great option either, because it's not that hard for him to block. But I just felt that, like, I'm going to need him to have a bad draw either way, right, to come back. And I felt like I'm more likely to come back if I play Goat. He has a terrible draw and has to, like, exchange, and then I draw a 100-point bingo with Goats, than for him to have a terrible draw after Guaco and for me to draw a big bingo from this O. Because this O isn't that easy a tile to draw a big bingo through. And if I get like a 60-pointer like Tio Cindy or something like that, that's just not going to cut it. I mean, I'm still going to be down 30 plus whatever he scores on his next turn. So I'm going to need something big from this O, which isn't looking likely at all. And after Goat, I have a decent chance to maybe draw something like Justice or Coquettes would be pretty unlikely, but it could happen. There's more things I could get there. And even something like Lucite will score over 100. So I just felt like Goat probably, from a win percentage standpoint, is, I mean, both are bleak, but probably a little bit better. Of course, from a spread point, as what happened in the game, I'm risking a huge play for him here, so it's careless when it comes to trying to preserve spread. But given the format of this series, I felt I'm better off just sort of throwing spread out the window and trying to maximize wins. So I think Goat is probably reasonable. Of course, he hits with evades, and at this point here, it's pretty moot. I decided to just, at this point, go all in and try to set up another S-hook with Scup, which he's able to block effectively with Sync. Toit looks, as good as anything here, pretty much. There's certainly nothing great, so it looks fine. He plays Jade, and yeah, I guess maybe I should have gone here. That's probably a bit better. Yeah, because either way, he's gonna likely go out with Layden next turn. Although I guess he could, if I keep AII, he might be better off slow playing here and playing something like Nala and Jot. That is actually probably better for him because I'm not going to be able to go out, and he's only scoring like 8 for Layden, so he's probably much better off scoring like 20-something over, or actually 30 over 2 turns, since I'm not going to be able to do much with this. So actually, I think if HastyBot plays the endgame right, something like Ages is not great. Of course, after Jig, I'm not going out either, but with my S, I'll be able to score a lot more. I can do something like AIS and Purviews next turn. So he's definitely better off just going out and depriving me of that opportunity rather than trying to slow play. It is worth giving honorable mention to Unkennelled as a 10, which I, for one, most certainly would not have known was a word, and I'm guessing most of my viewers would be in the same position, but pretty cool stuff. A 10-letter word with 3 N's, so not something that comes up very often, not something a lot of players would know, but that's pretty cool. In any case, though, he goes out for 7 and wins pretty comfortably. So, yeah, kind of a rough game at the end. I felt like we were hanging in there for a while, and then Bargello and Shadar's back-to-back sort of shut the lid on any opportunities I might have to come back into the game. But overall, I felt like I played reasonable. Maybe a few minor inaccuracies, like Wazoo over Zudi, and Merc versus Smirk is still debatable. But nothing major that game. I felt like overall I'm happy with how I played. Just didn't quite get what I needed at the end, and he very much got what he needed. So good win for the bot. Well played to him, and the score in the series now narrows to 11-10 in my favor. So hopefully we can get back on track in game number 22. So I will see you guys there soon. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate all the support. Have a good one.